guess the idea is just really nuts.
You were sitting there.
Matching of the data with the
Not from that, from the usage events
Yes. Your neighbor is there. On the way to Delhi.
The Telangana state. I also welcome Sri Jason Sarana, advisor IT to the Andhra Pradesh government. I also welcome Sri Raymond Peter, Principal Secretary Panchayat Raj and RD Government of Telangana. Please come on the dais. I will now invite the Minister.
We have all. When you like this time, only the bar. He does the track and work. Shashi.
Yes, sir. No, I'm doing that.
अरे oh yes.
Nobody will object.
आप eliminate करेंगे तो ना पूरी रोशनी
Nobody takes it.
I have great pleasure in seeing this workshop happening. You can see that APS and Telangana both have aspired to be leaders in open data access for a long time. I think when e-governance started in the country, the erstwhile AP state was the leader in terms of a lot of work which happened in the country. And a lot of data which was put in the public domain, even in NREGA and lots of other rural development programs, was of a very high order in case of this state. And we believe that, however, just having access to open data is not enough. Unless open data gets converted into outcomes, service delivery outcomes, access to market outcomes, human development outcomes, just having data is just the first part of the story. And I think that part is not that problematic as far as AP and Telangana is concerned. You can go to AP government's website, Telangana government's website, the SERV's website, all, and you can see tons of data there at this stage. Habitation-wise data, household-like data, access data, all the data. And there's plenty of data. So, we are right now in the process of developing a new program of rural inclusive growth in both AP and Telangana with both the governments. And this uses the existing investment in institutions of work, which is the self-help groups, the federations, to then achieve higher level of outcomes of human development and economic development there. And we believe that we have not fully utilized the data and its utilization for achieving outcomes in a an effective kind of way. Input and output data is very much there, but how does input and output gets converted into outcomes is still a very big issue, and which means that we can't do this alone in the government or in the bank. We need to interact with a large number of stakeholders, whether it is research establishment, and Hyderabad is the epicenter for a lot of institutions of excellence. Whether you take National Institute of Nutrition, you take NI Manage, you take NIRD, you take ISB, you take TIS has opened a branch. So you have institutions galore in Hyderabad. But if the institutions are not converting data into solutions, day-to-day solutions and adapting them, then just having institutions is not enough. These institutions should be actively involved in converting a lot of this information and data which is collected into solutions. So I think applications is a very important thing. And when we are going into governance, we are not going into static models. We are looking at mobile-based models. Increasingly, we are looking at service delivery points at various locations. So unless and until we create content and transformational content, and also create transformational service delivery models which have to do with M-governance and E-governance out of the data, then it's not going to get converted into outcomes. So we are very excited that we are at a very critical stage, both in the two states as well as in the country, where we are looking at transformational models of where we are not obsessed just with data for the sake of data, but we are looking at data to be converted into effective outcomes and governance. And I think this is the challenge we face. And I think we feel that if we can do it anywhere, we can do it here. Because there is a whole startup ecosystem, there is an enterprise ecosystem, all large players are here. But they are producing results more for certain kind of applications, which are some kinds of corporate and industrial, but not enough applications for the ability to convert rural development and agriculture data into applications has to exponentially increase for creating new kinds of solutions. So we are very lucky to have, and I think what I find that in Telangana, Mr. Ramarao is handling both portfolios. I think it's very unique. I haven't seen any other state where we are working where RD and IT is handled by the same minister. So we are really looking forward to this synergy and really produce a very outlier outcome. Luckily, you have Raymond also here, so who's been a very big champion of IT, and he's in RD also. So I think if you have that configuration, I think you need to come to something. Then we have like thought leaders like Mr. Satyanarayana, and who is sort of involved in National Institute of Smart Governance and all. I think we have a lot of enabling things in the ecosystem in place. But it is our ability to convert data into solutions which is going to distributions. We can be here after another 2 years and so many megabytes and gigabytes of data would have come, but if it is not converted into 100 best solutions, then this is of no use. So today we will like to dwell into that, how we can develop a continuous investment in enabling ecosystem to be able to do that. So I think we have assembled a lot of people from various departments, industry and all who are there. We have an IT ecosystem of a very high quality center. But my data shows that only 8% or 7% of it is going into rural development. 93% is going into. I am not saying that other applications are not required. If you want to develop electronics manufacturing, we still need data. Now, business analytics, data analytics has become a very big field now. And a lot of specific data about which customer is doing what and why that customer is behaving in a particular way is available with a lot of good companies which have invested in data analytics. But same kind of investment has not been done to get customized information about nutrition-seeking behavior, sanitation seeking, or commodities in which AP is the largest producer, but it's still getting the lower price. Yes, there are many commodities. Tribal areas of Kodagu produce turmeric of the best quality in the country. but the prices which the producer gets is a very poor value. Just 30% of the value which a turmeric exporter gets. Olam wants to use cashew as a very important crop of AP. But the information availability and the symmetry of information availability is not letting the farmer extract the best value. So I think we need to remove these asymmetries of information by which developing applications to convert data into access. Market prices, where to sell, what is available, services access, all those things which we are talking about. So I think I'll stop there, but I think we are, I'm very grateful to both Government of India, Telangana, SERP, and all the other stakeholders who are in that ecosystem. This is the first in the series of these workshops. We will continue to invest in this. And the two investments we are going to do in AP and Telangana, I assure you, Mr. Minister and everyone here, is that we will invest in information technology as the driver of growth, as the driver of inclusion, as the driver of service delivery, and will make enough investments in those issues which are cross-cutting to make them really realize their full competence. I would now like to invite Honorable Minister for IT and RD, Government of Telangana, Shri K.T. Rama Rao. Thank you, Mr.
A very good morning to all of you. Thanks, Mr. Parmesha, for being here, for organizing this wonderful event. But I think this is probably one of the first few events where we have both governments participating together. So in spite of us being separated geographically and politically and all that, I think there are some initiatives, there are some forums where actually we could come together and work for the benefit of the people at large. So wonderful initiative. Appreciate Parmesha ji and Zeta ji from the World Bank, Andrew Scott, Mr. Raymond Peter, Mr. Satyanarayana, Shashi Bhushan Garu, and our CEO sir, Mr. Murli, my friends from the media, and all the dignitaries present in front of the dais. As you all know, in the last 90 odd days of Telangana being carved out, of Telangana government coming into being, we have done something very interesting with regard to data. Our Chief Minister is a firm believer of the philosophy that all sorts of nonsense flies in the absence of good data. He believes that good data is imperative to actually build, plan, and actually have constructive programs going forward. In fact, the two things which we are proud about, which we are happy about, which have been done, which was a departure from the convention of the past, is one, we started out with what was called a bottom-up planning approach. My village, my plan. We wanted to empower, as Parmesha rightly said. I think very few governments have had this distinction of having a minister head both extremes of the spectrum. The information technology on the one end, which is very urban-centric and which is considered a little bit of, which has got this elite tag actually. And on the other hand, you have Panchayat Raj and rural development, which is the other end of the spectrum, which is where the majority of this country resides. So I have the unique distinction of leading both departments, and my very capable and very senior secretary, Mr. Raymond Peter, has been guiding me through the travels of how do we mix these two up and ensure that better connectivity and better information is better citizen services are offered to the people at large. And the two things that, as I mentioned, we are happy and proud about. One is the fact that we started out with a bottom-up planning approach called My Village, My Plan, My City, My Plan. We wanted to empower the citizens to actually come up with their set of requirements, with their set of needs, with their set of sort of a wish list, to actually let the government know right at the top as to what it is that they would like to see in their village happen. And the second thing we also started doing, in fact, we got a lot of flack for that, in fact. I should tell you this because the media created a huge furor over this, and there was a lot of skepticism, there was a lot of cynicism, lots of criticism. When we started analyzing the data that we had, as a new state, we wanted to just take stock of the situation. We wanted to analyze what we have and what we need to plan, etc. We realized that we came across some staggering statistics. I'm sure my secretary will elaborate on that. I'll just give you a couple of examples. One, the fact that we only had again, I'm going back and falling back on the data that we had in the past. The fact that there are about 84 lakh households in the state is a statistic that we had on one hand. And on the other hand, we had that while there were 84 lakh households, we had more than 1 crore 7 lakh ration cards. The fair price shops, they go by these ration cards. I'm sure most of you all know here. That's the one staggering statistics which obviously was unfathomable, which we could not get around to understand. The second thing obviously was, again, 84 lakh households, and successive governments over the last 20-25 years claim to have built about 55 lakh houses, new houses. And then there is still the demand for new ration cards and new houses, and still the urge, and the drive from the government side to actually do more and more in these two areas. So this is something that we could not get around to understand. We wanted to understand it deeply. Not just these two issues, but we wanted to actually plan better. And that's exactly why we went out and we did something. I think it should be recorded in the Guinness Book of World Records as well, because it is something that has been never attempted or achieved. We actually used the entire Telangana government's workforce, more than 4 lakh employees, and we went out aggressively and we completed a household survey in one single day, and which actually brought about a fantastic, huge data mine. In fact, as recently as yesterday, our Principal Secretary, Mr. Raymond Peter, had conducted a workshop on trying to understand the various usages of this wonderful data bank that we're sitting on right now. And the range of suggestions we got from various experts and various departments and various NGOs was staggering. In fact, he'll elaborate more on that. As Parmesh Shah said, I think there are two or three big buzzwords that are being mentioned repeatedly these days from anybody we keep meeting. One is big data, the other is data analytics. These are the two big things I think the world is talking about now. The IT world is sort of fallen in love with this whole idea of big data analytics, and so lots of companies in Silicon Valley and elsewhere are also talking about it. So on the whole, I would obviously, coming back to our discussion, we all know that we're in the middle of a huge data revolution that's sweeping the world today. A high-level UN panel on the post-development agenda called for, and I quote, "Data revolution for sustainable development with a new international initiative to improve the quality of statistics and information available to people and governments. Data must also enable us to reach the neediest and find out whether they are receiving essential services." This is exactly what we set out to achieve when we started off with our initiative on the household survey. We wanted to ensure that the government's services, the government's plans actually reach the neediest, actually the essential services are tailored and catered and planned according to the needs of the citizens who are right at the bottom of the rung. I'll bet with anyone in the room that we are part of this revolution without us knowing it, or without us actually not being in the know-how. We all know it. Some of us know it, some of us don't. We all know that data actually increasingly drives our decisions, such as where we live, where our children go to school, which hospitals we use, and what services we actually use. It also helps us navigate from point A to point B. In fact, I used to wonder, when I lived in the United States for about 7 years, that's exactly the time, I think, when the Yahoo Maps started coming into being. And when I used to drive from point A to point B, I lived in the tri-state area for a very long period of time. When I used to drive from Connecticut to New York or from Connecticut to New Jersey, I used to just pull up my Yahoo Maps and I used to just be navigated by it. And I always used to wonder what people did when they actually did not have the Yahoo Maps. And I asked a colleague of mine, I asked him, how did you commute in this complicated web that you've created called the National Highway System? How did you navigate from point A to point B? He simply said, we used the good old maps, I had my wife sitting right next to me, and she used to tell me how to go about it. She used to be my navigator. This is what he told us. So yes, data increasingly drives us today from point A to point B. And data is used by governments, obviously, to make decisions on our behalf, to plan our operations, and also help them be accountable. So what's more, attitudes to data are also changing. People used to hoard data because they thought that